Welcome, fellow cultists, to this review of Arkham Horror Final Hour. We are so close to victory. We have overrun Miskatonic University with monsters. We are just a few steps away from summoning the Ancient One. We just have to get rid of these pesky investigators, which are trying to find out what our ritual actually is and to reverse it before we can do the final blow.
Of course, in this game, you players will be playing as the investigators, trying to stop that from happening. And here's how it's going to work. On your turn, you are going to draw one card from your character deck. Actually, everyone does it at the same time. And everyone has a deck of priority cards. Each one has a different number and perhaps one or more symbols like this, maybe none. We'll get to that later on. And you cannot discuss anything during this phase. This is all individual. But you're going to have a card such as this with two halves on it, and you are either going to do the top half or the bottom half. They're each separate different actions that you might perform. So on your turn, you will put your card face down, and then your number will go face up. Now, the number indicates what order you're going to end up going in the round. So let's say we go around, everybody places their cards along with some random number on it. This will be the order that you play those cards in, regardless of what turn it is. Once everyone has done that, then you one at a time reveal in that number order what it was. Now, let's get back to the two different actions on those cards. The first two players in priority order are going to do the top action. The second two players are going to take the bottom action. And sometimes that bottom action isn't so great, depending on your circumstances. So you're kind of trying to read each other's minds to find out what you want to do, what order you want to go in.
Honestly, most of the bottom actions usually are bad, but maybe have a little nice things to help you with. Most of the top actions are much stronger. So it's all about deciding where you want to be. For example, you can't talk, but playing a 5 seems to hint that I really want to go first.
Right, most likely. Or if I play, they go from 1 to 30. If I played a 30, well, I'm going last, regardless of what anyone else says about it. Now, the types of things that you'll probably be doing from these actions, of course, moving your characters around the board. You move on these different pathways here. There are monsters. Sometimes you'll be able to attack them. You have to deal damage equal to the health number in the corner, and you can remove them. You might also investigate these tokens. That's very important because you're trying to find out what these two things are here. They are randomly chosen at the start of the game. And you need to know that because that's how you're going to win. You're kind of trying to figure that out. So to narrow that process down, process of elimination, you're going to flip some over and you might say, oh, look, this is a star. What that means is that you know that at least one of those isn't a star. Now, there's two of each type, so it could still be a star. You know it's not going to be these two clover-looking symbols or these hourglass symbols. So you're trying to figure that out. Some of these may also be keys. Those give you special items with more special cool abilities that all kinds of things that can help you attack, help you move around, draw cards, all sorts of stuff going on there. Frequently, those bottom actions are going to come with some negative effects, as we mentioned. Often, in this instance, for example, it will activate monsters in certain zones. You can see there's different colors. There's orange, green, and purple. So let's say this one activates the purple zone. You would look at all those monsters from in number order, from lower to higher, and activate them. And depending on what symbol is on their token, they're going to do different things. If it's got an arrow, they will move along different pathways, as indicated by these blue and red arrows. There's blue monsters and red monsters that move differently. There are these guys who actually do damage to locations. They put down these damage tokens like this, and if a building has no space for monsters or damage tokens, then monsters that move through it are going to move to the next spot, and that's bad because ultimately they're trying to end up in a certain location, depends on your scenario, but in ours that we were just looking at, it would be this one, and if this got filled up, then you would lose the game. So you're trying to manage these monsters and kill them and stop that from happening. Some of them also might do damage to you. If they have this little icon, looks like a head, and you're in their space when they're activated, you're going to lose health. That's another way you can lose. If one of your investigators loses all their health, you all lose the game. You don't want anyone to die. That's bad.
After all cards are flipped, now we're going to go back to these eye symbols. For what happens is the Elder Gods then, because this is an Arkham Files game, is going to mess around with the board. Now here we have 4 of these symbols showing. So you take the one you're looking at. In this case, we sort of set around the board with this guy. You go to whatever that number would be, so that'd be between 3 and 5, and you do what it says. Now they all have different things. They actually include 3 different Elder Gods in case you're curious. And they all have their unique monsters. That's what, if it's yellow with the cut corner, it means it's a special monster with their own special rules. And then you do what it says. After that, you're going to take a gate token. So, John, if you can reset, because I cannot.
Yeah.
Look at the matching gate, because at the start of the game, it'll tell you where the starting gates are. And now this has 4 of that tokens on there, so you're going to spawn 4 monsters there. That's bad.
Yeah.
By the way, this bag does not come with the game. This is actually from Board Game Geek store. They have a bunch of different colors. I pretty much bought the whole set for all the Arkham File games that require bags but don't include anything.
Yeah, you're going to have to shuffle around in the box if you want to.
So, usually in this case, you draw them one at a time. I'm just going to be really quick. If it's filled, as Jonathan said, they'll move along the lines until they hit a spot that they can go, which unfortunately in this case is there. So you'd keep going until all that is done. So I'm just going to put them around the board randomly. They'd always spawn in wherever you put the gate. After that, if no one has died or this area didn't fill up and something else tried to go there, you continue to the next round. End of the turn. You can decide as a group, should you attempt the ritual? What this is the end game. This is the only way you can win. Those cards also have the matching symbols up there. When you decide as a group together, like you feel like you have either enough information or you will lose next turn, so you got to go for it anyways, you will try to contribute 3 cards each without saying what you're contributing. Now, in this case, I'm in a bad spot, and all you can say is I can or cannot contribute because I have both of the knocked out symbols. So I'm only going to add 1 in. You need at least 2 times the number of players. So in this case, we need 8 matching. If it happened to be 2 the same, so 2 moons, then a moon counts for 2, which is pretty nice. So right now, I'm only contributing 1.
Yeah, maybe I'm
I would
over
not
here.
know. You would not know, though.
Let's say,
we should note that.
Yeah, so it would be face down. Let's say we went in and flipped. I mean, we're also we're just having it set up for 4 players. Like you said, it changes, but we would reveal. Oh, there's a star and a diamond shape.
Let's randomly just choose 3, I guess, for our compatriots.
Sure. So in this case, I got a couple stars.
I had nothing.
There's a diamond. There's a diamond.
Fortunately,
we didn't pass that test.
I mean, doesn't help the top down.
Yeah, and sometimes towards the end of the game, even maybe you want to go earlier in the round really badly, but it's a symbol that you know is going to be useful. So you have to really decide, is it worth me doing that right now or not? So it's definitely a lot of the game centers around that information gathering both from the board and from the other people you're playing with. A lot of it is reading each other.
One other small thing is that there's these barriers. Pretty much if a monster tries to move through a barrier, it automatically kills them, flips over to a weaker side, then that dies. So that's a good way to maybe take on some of the higher health monsters.
So the idea behind this game, of course, it's called Arkham Horror, and I think most people, rightfully so, associate that title with really heavy, long experiences. And this is definitely not that. It plays in
under an hour.
Under an hour, yeah. What it takes from Arkham Horror, I think, if you're familiar with it, certainly, obviously, the theme, but it's trying to keep that tense challenge alive in this game. I definitely think if you really want that challenge, there's a few different difficulty modes. So
yes, during setup, they tell you how to do whether it's like easy, normal, or hard.
Hard is where you want to go if you really want to make it, if you're used to the more punishing, I think, nature of most of the Arkham games, I think this one, it goes a little bit easier on you. I think is meant as more of almost a gateway experience, no pun intended, for kind of this universe.
I think
it's still tough.
It's definitely a number of players too. I think it's a little easier with 2 because you have more information.
Yeah, that may be so.
Compared to the 4, especially if you're playing with strangers.
Yeah, if you're playing with fewer than a full 4, you actually may get to play multiple cards per turn. So that can help you out because you can plan a little bit because you know half of what's going to flip up versus only your own card.
Right.
So that's definitely an interesting aspect. There's different characters too. Each character has their own unique deck of actions. Most of them I found, at least the ones that I played with, they're different, but it's not as if you really feel like they're that unique. I don't know about how
they have a couple things like this guy does a lot more healing. He can remove these places a lot more.
I thought that this one was a little more support based.
She rewards you for having other investigators on the field. I think he just damages monsters, and she's about running around the field.
So there are some things, and those guys too, like you said, have different powers and such. But I think what's so interesting about this game is the part where you're not allowed to talk, and you're trying to figure out what other people are going to do on their turns. There's this really cool suspense about it that is very different from an Arkham. It's not something I've seen in any other Arkham game, and I think that's something too. If you're going into this expecting a traditional Arkham game, it's very, very different, and you could almost put a different theme on it, I think, pretty easily and get something
one
else.
of the things that for some people is going to be a very big annoyance is in order to slim it down, there really isn't much story. Honestly, I mean, while they have the unique monsters, there isn't any cards you're reading that tells you, oh, this is definitely Cthulhu. They don't even have like your own personal card where you read a backstory on these characters. It's just they're there, everything's hitting the fan, and you're trying to stop it.
It's almost an abstract game, really. I mean, not really, because there is a theme, but the way you're trying to just find like these symbols,
the ritual components.
Yeah, it doesn't. It sounds negative to say it doesn't feel thematic, but I think the game is fun enough that it overcomes that. And usually, I am a guy who really wants the theme.
No, I mean, we randomly throw those cards down. We said we failed, but usually there's a bit more planning and thinking, and it feels really good when you have that three and like, let's go for the best. Yes, we did it!
It can be a really exciting final moment. I also like the fact that you decide as a group when you want to try to end the game. It feels like you have agency, like there's always a finale, as opposed to some games where it can just be like, oh, we did the last thing, it's over.
Now, if you're familiar with the Arkham Files line, most of those games play pretty well solo because it's just controlling multiple players by yourself. You may need a table to leave out for a week or so until you finish playing through, but yes. This game, a lot of it obviously relies on the not knowing what you're going to do. So in solo mode, it actually plays a bit differently in a very interesting way. So the way the game works is, I'm going to take these 4 again in a hand. You will draw 5. You will choose one card and put it next to the ancient one. And that's this pile you're making here, so each turn you're going to put one, is what you're actually going to be allowed to use for that final ritual. So there's a bit more planning, like, okay, like, I mean, this is much near the end, but if it was early on, like, I've already put a star in, let's put a clover in to be safe. And then as you close up more, like, okay, I don't need to put any more clovers, let's put that in. You'll be playing with 2 investigator decks, and what you do is you will draw one, decide where to assign it out of the 4 cards you have left over. You're allowed to draw in any order, so you can go back and forth or do both hers right away and deciding and then do that. So you have a lot more information. It's a bit more planning. So that's how it works, and it plays a lot differently because of that, which is really fun. And I definitely think if you want to try the hard modes, definitely solo is the way to go since, I mean, it works better solo because you have so much more information. It's a bit more interesting to deal with how the map unfolds.
It's definitely interesting how even from...
especially this pile here.
Yeah, even from 2 to 4 players, it feels very different. So the fact that they came up with something that makes it work as a solo is impressive, considering how much the core game is based around interacting with your friends. Crits and misses for Arkham Horror Final Hour. Crits. Final Hour provides a new and refreshing take on the Arkham property. It is quick, it is streamlined, it is easy to play with people in under an hour.
This is actually a game where you could be like, you want to play a game? And decide to choose this without planning out your game night a week in advance.
The rules limiting open discussion at the table create a palpable feeling of suspense between players on your turn, and especially for that finale of the game. And they also do a good job limiting alpha gaming or quarterbacking if that's something that you have problems with in your co-op games.
Instead of having the terror of not rolling 5s or 6s in your regular Arkham series, this time you're terrified of someone playing a lower number than your card if you're really banking for that top ability.
The game plays well between 1 and 4 players, so whether you want to do this as a group experience or just in solo mode, there's something there for you.
Behold the Elder Misses. Because this game is a lot shorter, you're gonna run through most of the content relatively quickly. You're gonna see most of the playable characters and all 3 of the ancient ones very fast, so you could be a little disappointed with how much content is provided in the box.
There are just 3 ancient ones to play with and a handful of different characters, but even then, none of them feel too different from each other that they really change the game from one session to another.
In order to keep the game nice and short, they did have to sacrifice all the story and theme that we see in other Arkham File games. For some people, maybe that's not big of an issue, maybe a plus, but for others, this could be a huge turnoff if they've been part of the Arkham File series for a long time.
We really liked the gameplay in this one, but if you're looking for that theme and flavor that other Arkham series games have, you won't really find it. This one definitely surprised me in a good way. Originally I know we heard streamlined Arkham, and we thought, well, is it going to be so even more streamlined from what 3rd edition did, just a pared down thing? But it really is its own entity. It does its own thing, and because it's so quick and because the gameplay is refreshing, I feel like you could. If this had a theme that wasn't Arkham Horror, I think you could easily mass market this as like the next Pandemic, like that kind of thing that even more casual gamers can enjoy. Which is not to say that there's not challenge, because there is, but I like that it branches out and does a different thing.
Would you say it's a gateway game?
I might say it all over again.
The one thing I really want from this, the base game's solid. I did enjoy it a lot. I like it a lot more than when I played the other small Arkham Files game, Elder Signs. Mm-hmm. Feel free to fight me on that. This game, what it needs is, there's only 3 Elder Gods included. I want this to be like Cosmic Encounter, when there's just like a stack this thick. Because you could actually play through all of them, unlike, I think, Cosmic Encounter, in which those games can really last a long time.
Yeah, no.
Nothing against it, it's just harder to go through all the aliens they provide.
There's definitely room for expansions here, and I think that's almost part of the knock against it, is I think they knew that as well, and they're planning for that. Things like more items, more
honestly,
monsters.
It's not even items, not even those. It's literally just these guys is all I think.
Yeah.
And I understand that maybe that could cut down some price too, and making it just 3 in there. It's just, I hope the next one isn't, I hope it has a lot of these, not just another 3. I think it needs like 10.
Yeah, I would also like to see them have effects that shake things up a little bit more. Most of those, they do different things, but they kind of tend to, there's not that many things going on, so they can only affect things in so many ways, I feel. But also, of course, then you run the risk, because one of the things I like about it is that it's simpler, so you don't want to add too much that's crazy. But yeah, I think definitely an optional expansion maybe that ups the complexity a bit wouldn't hurt.
So overall, I think we enjoy it mostly because it does stand out a lot from its Arkham brethren in being that you can play it in one day. But it could use, I think, it sounds like a bit more filling into it.
Yeah, so if you're an Arkham fan, depending on what you like about it, I think, honestly, you may or may not like this. I honestly think that has almost no bearing on whether you'll enjoy the game, unless you really, really love the theme, because, you do still get the cool art of the monsters and stuff.
There is a bit of fun in being like, oh, I recognize that as a Dimensional Walker. I'm blanking on the name of it, but something like that.
The Shambler?
Shambler, yes, that's the word.
Or if you're someone who hasn't liked them before, you still might want to give it a try. We definitely had fun with it. It's Arkham Horror Final Hour. Talk to us in the comments. Let us know. This is your final hour to hear stuff from us and from you. Let us know what you think.
3-point landing.
Yeah, I did it. I really did it. And check out, also we got a how to play on our channel. If you pick up the game, you can learn how to play better from that, perhaps, when that is up on our channel.
But until then, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this has been Roll for Crit.
Support our Patreon, like this video, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a thing.
Watch more of our content now to hold back Cthulhu's madness.